You're tuned in to Steve Megatron on Altered Geek.
Hello and welcome to Altered Geek. I have to figure out when is an appropriate time to stop saying this, but I am your sometimes host, Michael Powers. I am joined this week by your always host. I believe you've always been the host.
Always.
Steve Megatron Phillips.
Yo.
This week, this day. So, anyways, still trying to break out of those old habits.
Yep.
On this episode, we kind of wanted to talk about. We wanted to shine a little spotlight on Nintendo Power making its return as a podcast, directly from Nintendo.
Which is interesting, especially since I believe they brought one of the editors of the thing to actually headline the podcast.
And I believe he's also the guy that's responsible for bringing all of their indie game development for the Switch right now as well, too, just from this article I've read for like all of 30 seconds. I say that because while I've heard about the podcast, I've known about it for a little over a week, I haven't listened to it yet.
I haven't either, although I want to, just because I'm familiar with the brand name of Nintendo Power.
I mean, I would like to check it out, but like when it comes to like my gaming podcasts, like I have a long and storied history with the gaming podcasts that I listen to, which is primarily the only podcasts I listen to are gaming related. And that's kind of like what I wanted to get into, which was we kind of went off on this tangent a little bit, kind of hit on it, and I talked about this off air, that if we were going to talk about this, like gaming or game magazines as podcasts, this actually almost ends up being like how I was personally introduced like into podcasts. And it's kind of really quick, and it goes along with this. But like I used to read Electronic Gaming Monthly.
Yep, me too.
Like all the time, and we all know that they also had the website oneup.com. And they had a number of podcasts on oneup.com, from Retronauts to One Up Yours and GFW Radio.
Didn't all those get bought up by IGN or something?
So, the story of One Up was they were bought by
was it Ziff Davis?
No, yes, Ziff Davis bought them all back and shuttered a lot of the staff. And then there was like a massive podcast exodus from the One Up site in like the end of 2009, which was like heartbreaking for me. And then everyone kind of went their separate ways. And through that, like a lot of people that left, they started their own podcasts. So then I added their podcast to my rotation because I wanted to be able to keep up with what they were doing and hear about their gaming insights and stuff like that. But like the 2009 exodus was like a big deal for me because I started listening to podcasts in 2005, and I started with stuff like One Up and Retronauts and stuff like that. And then 4 years, and like they were the guys they had on the show. They were the editors of the magazine, so you could read their reviews in the magazine, and then all of a sudden you could actually hear them on a podcast, and they would follow up a little more, talk a little more in depth about how they felt about a certain game. And because you could actually like you hear the person that wrote the article talking, you could get like an idea, like you would get a better understanding of what type of game they were talking about. And just over the course of like the last decade, like listening to these guys, because I still listen to them today, like they're all doing their own podcast, their own thing. But like I'm able to listen to them and know if a game that they're talking about, like if they like a certain game, then I will probably like a certain game. it seems kind of weird to have that kind of a bond to like a podcast host. But I don't really think it's any different than like sticking by like a particular reviewer that you like or anything like that. But that's one of the reasons why I got into podcasts. That 2009 Exodus that everyone got laid off at One Up, like I was like, well, these guys are all starting their own podcast. Why can't I start my own podcast? Like, I have stuff I want to say. Like, I want to say it. I don't know if anyone wants to listen to what I have to say, but I want to say it, But this all kind of goes together. Like, I was listening to podcasts that were made by the editors of a magazine. Obviously, Nintendo Power has a much more storied history than most other video game magazines. I used to subscribe to Nintendo Power.
I didn't subscribe to it, but I did remember reading it. I used to pick it up in the store and sometimes scan through it to see if there was something I wanted that made it worth me buying, like if it was a game that I was interested in or a set of reviews that I wanted to be able to read later. I would pick them up then. But yeah, I used to read a lot of gaming magazines way back when, and a lot of kind of PC games, a lot of Star Trek. I read like Star Trek Communicator magazine, which doesn't get put out anymore, obviously because magazines don't really get picked up. So people consume podcasts because they could be anywhere, don't have to actually read it, and it's something that's just more easily consumable as a whole. And it didn't have an impact on me starting podcasting because my journey was a bit different, but because mine started through voiceover. And but when it came to the magazines themselves, like I was always kind of a frequent purchaser of them all. I used to get a lot of the Beckett branded, like they'd had like Dragon Ball Z magazine. They had different anime franchises or different movie based things. Mm-hmm. And of magazines that were out at the time. I can't remember half their names. There was like always a sci-fi one, and there was like a movie one that was always out. It tells you how long I've been in an actual bookstore because most of them got closed down. But
I feel like the movie one was like Cinescape.
That one I think is still around.
Okay. Well, see, I don't look at the magazine
Well,
like
I don't either. You can actually get a lot of magazines digitally now. See, like I have AT&T internet and cell phone, and so they, as a part of some promotion for around Christmas time, were giving away like these year's subscriptions to. You could pick 4 magazines that you could read for free. Okay. Where AT&T would foot the bill, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, It's like, I think the app on your phone would be called, I think it's called Readly or something, or
okay,
something to that effect. But I downloaded it because it's Readly, and every 30 days you can choose a new set of 4 magazines to read. And I thought it was kind of cool.
The same magazines?
You can read the same ones if you choose, or you can choose a different set. So like for my first month, I chose PC World, Maximum PC, and then the one of the movie ones. And I was kind of interested in it. I think it was like Total Film was the magazine.
Okay.
And then you can like bookmark other ones that you want to possibly subscribe to later. And then you can read like when you choose one of that particular thing, you can read the entire backlog that's on the site. So It's kind of cool. I know of a lot of the magazine stuff I used to read, though, like back then, like I said, the Star Trek one and the other stuff. Like that's kind of what's prompted me to kind of pay attention to some of them now as podcasts. Like I know they don't have those same editors, and I honestly couldn't remember their names if I wanted to, but I seek out a lot of different voices in those same type of communities just so that I can kind of get a more rounded opinion of it.
Yeah, when EGM went down and One Up went down, like that was I was more into EGM and like that stuff than I was like GamePro or anything like that. Like I couldn't. GamePro to me just was like horrible reading.
GamePro was terrible. I did like the aesthetics because at the time that I was reading that, I actually wanted to. That actually prompted me to start my emulator site of sorts because I tried to start my own online magazine website and that just failed utterly.
It's like when EGM went down though, they were going to go. There was a period in time, like it was right after the iPad came out, and everybody was doing a digital magazine. And Ziff Davis was going to try to bring EGM back as a digital magazine. And I was like all for it. Like I was like, oh, EGM's coming back. But yeah, it came back and I checked out a couple issues and it was neat. But like they didn't bring anybody that I cared about back. Like all the personality that they had, like all left and found other work. And it just wasn't the same. It wasn't the same magazine anymore. Like I follow personalities around, and that's one of the things. Like I'm interested in the Nintendo Power podcast, but like I have to figure out how I'm going to consume it, because there's two ways that I listen to podcasts right now, and one is as I'm going to sleep, and the other one is in the car. There's one podcast I listen to that's called This Year Collection. The guy, I don't think the guy does them anymore, but I have all of the podcasts saved that I care about. He basically takes an entire year's worth of podcasts from different shows and breaks them down into like a best of collection. So I have for example, there's like a GFW radio best of collection for like 2008, and it's done in 2 parts, and each episode is 4 hours long.
Wow.
But it's not like but it's a collection of stuff, right? So it's like a montage of greatest clips from over the course of the year, and he tries to format the episodes in the way that they actually aired. So you'll get like, a what you've been playing segment that'll be like an hour long, but it'll be like basically the best of what you've been playing sections from over the entire year. Which that's what I listen to, like whenever I'm caught up on like current podcasts or I'm just bored, like I just go back to those. I've listened to those podcasts like on repeat. And it's all interesting because they're all almost all those podcasts are almost 10 years old now. So it's really interesting to see like some of the predictions that were made and stuff like that come to fruition, or see how wrong certain people were about things. That's always fun. But I miss magazines.
I actually am one of those people that likes to actually pick them up and read them. When they're digital, I find that I don't have much attention span.
I can.
I like to physically be able to flip through the book, which is.
I can read a book digitally. I can do that. There's something about consuming a magazine digitally that I'm not able to do. I think it's because, like, magazines, like especially like in this day and age, like I can get like a magazine article online. Like I'm used to reading something off like my computer screen. Like, there's just this weird disconnect that goes on in my head. But yeah, so I'll try to check it out. I'll add it to my 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 iTunes account and see whenever I get a chance to get around to listening to it. It is kind of interesting that the first episode focuses around. No, that's not interesting because the first issue of Nintendo Power was around Mario 2. So I think the second issue was around Zelda. I don't remember.
Well, I think they said in the first episode of the podcast, it would feature the former, editor-in-chief of the magazine, Chris Slate, and who now works at Nintendo of America. And they were going to talk about basically guests from Nintendo reminisce about, Nintendo's busy 2017, and then they're lead developers of Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild.
I am so torn on the Switch. I really am.
I don't. I kind of signed off on modern Nintendo stuff after the Wii.
I have a Switch. I like playing it. Like I like the games that I've played on it, but like it's selling like hotcakes, and I have no idea what people are buying. Like it's so like it's apparently as of like yesterday or today, it is now the fastest selling video game console in U.S. history. Like, but like, I mean, obviously, like I'm a microcosm, right? Like I don't like I have Mario Kart, and I have 1-2 Switch because it's a party game. That's primarily what I bought the Switch for, was for party stuff. And I bought Zelda, but I don't understand like the appeal of it. Like I've pre-ordered a couple of games. Like I've got Metroid Prime 4 pre-ordered, and I've got Bayonetta pre-ordered, and the one game that I really secretly want, I want them to release Wii Sports for the Switch. Like Wii Sports was the only game I liked on the Wii. It was the only game I liked.
On the Wii, I liked Smash Brothers Brawl. I liked Wii Sports and
bowling.
That was fun. That was something our family liked to sit there and play, and it was entertaining because especially when you figured out how you could kind of cheat by whipping the ball a certain way.
Yep. Bowl the perfect 300 that way.
Yep, we figured out that you didn't have to get off the couch.
Oh, I see. That's the one thing. Okay.
Well, that was one of our family members. That wasn't me. I can't do that sitting down. I tried.
That was the one thing with the Switch, is that I never played it. Not the Switch, the Wii. I never played it sitting down. Like my family, we would not let each other. Like you had to get up, or you forfeited your turn. There was no, I'm going to sit right here and just flick my wrist. It's like, no, you get your butt up and you do this the right way.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. Like sitting down, I had to stand. But yeah, I don't know. As far as the podcasts, as far as magazines coming back as podcasts, I'm all for it if, like you said, if the original people that you had a connection with are there and they're doing the kind of commentary on it. But as a whole, like, I don't know. I mean, yeah, that's kind of digging on nostalgia, but and I wish some of these magazines would come back. But yeah, I don't know. What do the listeners think? That would be the key question here. What do you guys think about, podcasts or magazines coming back as podcasts, and in this digital audio video era of consumption?
Is there a video game magazine that you want to come back as a podcast besides Nintendo Power? And also let us know, like, what are there any gaming podcasts that you enjoy, or I would like to know at least, are there any gaming podcasts that you enjoy listening to? Because my collection is getting fairly fine-tuned. I've basically been listening to the same guys share the same stuff for like the last... I've consistently followed all the guys that left OneUp.com for like the last 10 years. And I've listened to just about all of their shows, all the different versions of their shows and stuff like that. I would like to get some outside opinions. I mean, on certain things, or try something new. So yeah, let us know what you think about Nintendo Power coming back as a podcast, or other video game magazines potentially coming back as a podcast. What you'd like to see, what you listen to as far as video games, if video games are your thing. Trying to think of a good hashtag for this for the Facebook and Twitter page, but kind of want to say Altered Power.
I like it.
So use hashtag Altered Power and let us know what you think about this. You can find myself on Twitter at BoothNinja81, and you, Steve?
At SCP21.
Until next time, get altered, get geeky. Wait, no.
Yes, that's right.
I can't even. Yeah, okay. Get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks.